Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Salt and Burn This. My name is Sammy.
I'm Valerie.
And this is our Supernatural Rewatch podcast. Thanks for joining us. I feel like it's been forever.
It's because it has been forever.
I feel like that Titanic meme of Rose, old Rose saying, "It's been 84 years."
It kind of has.
Yeah.
It kind of has. It's definitely... I'm like, oh my God, Sammy, look, your hair's even longer. It's been that long. Because not only have we not like checked into podcast, been able to podcast, I actually haven't talked to you.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we normally talk, we're not just podcast buddies. We actually do talk, but we've both been just so insane that we haven't actually talked either. So it's good to see ya.
You too. I'm glad your show went on. I'm glad my show went on.
Oh my God.
Despite all of the trials and tribulations of opera in the time of COVID.
Take the COVID out of the equation. My show was the show from hell. No, to take it back. It was a cursed production.
Oh.
Because we did the show in two different locations. We did it once in Michigan, once in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And in both locations, it was cursed. It was absolutely cursed. In fact, I think it was more cursed in North Carolina. Real quick, I'll just run down the issues.
Do it.
Okay. One of our leads decided to take a city scooter into work, fell off the scooter and broke his arm. So we had to replace him. And it took 2 days to find the replacement and a day to fly the replacement in from Egypt. Okay. Egypt. That's where we flew somebody in from. He came in, which was great. Learned the entire show in 3 hours. Boom. He learned it. He was great. Next day, he got sick. So he was out for 2 days. And then, so that aside, then our props master got sick, caught COVID. So he was out. Pause. Okay, so I'm sorry. I know I said I'd take COVID out of the equation, but COVID was our props master caught COVID, so he was out. Our wardrobe lady, our wardrobe supervisor, was attacked and bitten by her neighbor's dog, so she was out.
Betsy?
Betsy was out for other reasons. We had a replacement Betsy, so our replacement Betsy is the one who got attacked, and then Betsy had to come in to cover for her. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. It was just like one thing after another. It was insanity.
God.
So cursed production went off beautifully, but getting there, if you were to like chronicle what happened on that show, you'd be like, how did you even get a show done?
Yeah. That's a little bit like ours, except COVID was very much a part of the equation because they're very strict about it. And thankfully no one got horribly sick because everyone is like fully, vaxxed to the max.
Vaccinated. Yeah.
But our lead, like one of our tenors caught it. And then one of the young kids got it, who's supposed to play the young version of the lead. He caught it. Who else caught it? This one guy who played, like his father caught it. But he was like a jerk about it. He just like kept coming in. It was like, I just want to watch rehearsal. And they're like, no. That's
you breathing.
Yes.
Oh my God.
He's just like, but I'm vaccinated, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, doesn't matter. And then the AD got COVID, who was the previous, and before all of this, our director had to bow out for personal reasons.
All right.
I know, which was devastatingly sad.
Because he's an amazing, he's an amazing director, and he's an amazing person. Yeah.
But anyway, the AD was kind of supposed to be his like right-hand man and kind of be him on the ground while the fill-in director, did the best he could. But there's only so much, that one person can do. So then when he caught it, it was like, oh my God.
Oh, what next? Every time somebody says what next, you're like, please stop saying what next.
Yeah,
because there is a what next. There is a what next. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Your building's on fire. No, that during one of the performances, one of our cast members like Wile E. Coyote off the side of the stage, and like luckily she only like
Again?
rolled her
Oh,
ankle. A
You
different
told
girl,
me that. Oh,
same
another time?
character, same character, different performer, did the exact same thing. Yep. And the only way I can describe it is Wile E. Coyote off the edge of the stage. Just like,
Oh my
I'm like, did
God.
you not know the stage ended? Like your body kept going and
Yeah.
you didn't. Yep. So same character, different performer, same exact issue. She ended up only rolling her ankle and needing ice backstage. But so yes, I was like, again, what next? Stop asking what next.
Yeah. Season 2, episode 20, What Is and What Should Never Be. A devoted girlfriend, a regular job, and a loving mother in a house that didn't burn down. A run-in with a djinn gives Dean the life he would have had. Written by Rael Tucker and directed by Eric Kripke. And the commentary, by the way, this had a commentary, and it was just by Eric Kripke. He was the sole commentator.
Just him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's great. This was an incredibly beautiful episode.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly beautiful. Not only story-wise, but emotional arc-wise, cinematography-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about it to me was just very, beautiful.
Yeah.
Even the cold parts of it, even the cold, stark, hard reality scenes and issues, still beautiful.
Yeah.
So it was such a well done episode for like a Monster of the Week TV show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I loved it. I loved every nuance of this episode.
Yeah, it was quite good. Quite good. But on the commentary, Eric mentioned something that I didn't know. The directors are like really like slated well beforehand. So like this is episode 20, but he had known he was going to direct episode 20 like probably at the beginning of the season. Like they kind of assign it like there.
Okay.
So he wasn't like the directors usually don't know what episode they are going to direct. You know, like what the script is going to be, what the subject is going to be until like it's like closer to that timeline. Which I didn't know that. Like I thought
I didn't know that either.
I thought it was like, oh, I want to direct this one, or you know.
Yeah, right. Like name in a hat. Here we go.
Yes. But I think what he said is since he is the head writer / creator, he had some strings that he could pull. You know, because he was like, no, I definitely want to do an alternate.
He wanted
reality
to do
one.
this episode.
Yeah, he wanted an alternate reality
okay.
one. So I think he kind of push that in there like, hey, by the way, can you make episode 20 kind of like this? Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad he did it because it was, like I said, it was a beautiful episode. It was just, yeah. And even the parts I didn't like for the right reasons. You don't have to like everything, but the fact that I didn't like it made me like it that much more. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Totally. Okay, so in our recap, it's essentially like the pilot episode. Like it's those scenes, you know, mom on the ceiling on fire, and dad, and take your brother out, and
Jessica, what would I do without you? So Jess is back in.
Yeah, Sam and Jess back at law school, and family business, all of that.
Yeah.
So like we're heading like it's a Wayback Machine.
Wayback Machine. Yes, exactly. And you know, and with Dean saying screw the job. You know, there's that moment of,
yeah.
You know,
from a couple episodes ago being like, man, let's just go to Tijuana or whatever the hell they were going to go to.
We're tired of this. Screw the job. So that was the recap. That was the then. And then the now. First thing we see is the Impala with new license plates.
Yes.
Ta-da! Which was a huge shock. I mean, it was a shock, but it wasn't a shock because obviously when they left the previous episode, they're like, we have to go deep. You know, we have to.
They just escaped prison.
They just escaped prison and the FBI. And so I think,
as I forgot her name already, the cute werewolf chick said, you know, you have a pretty conspicuous car if you're staking out. You know?
Right. Maddie, was that her name?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's still got the Impala, but now it has Ohio plates instead of Kansas plates. And there was some speculation among the fandom about what the plates were. And I couldn't find anything. There was nothing really specific about the plates, except the running speculation is that the plates came off of one of Kripke's cars, which I don't think it did. I think it's just Ohio and Kripke's from Ohio.
Yes,
so.
I think that's what it is, because as far as I know, that kind of combination is not a valid
real
one.
Okay.
Like, you know how some states they have like a certain combination of letters and numbers, like the first 3 are letters and then the second 3 are numbers or what have you. I don't believe that Ohio's does this, where there's just like a random letter in the last 4.
Yeah. So I don't think there's anything special other than the shout out to Ohio.
For sure. Yeah, I would agree with you there.
So Dean is driving around and he's on the phone with Sam. Sam's not in the car with him. Sam's back at a motel and researching currently, what is it, a djinn?
Yes.
And so he's looking at Qurans, he's looking at history books, he's looking at other mythologies, researching a djinn, which they spell it Djinn, like jinn.
Yes. And oddly enough, in the subtitles, it's spelled wrong.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it's spelled Jinn, but yeah, or a frickin' genie.
It's just frickin' genie. And so they're just, you know, while Dean's driving around looking for like where would a djinn be holed up, Sam is describing, you know, what he's finding about djinns, which is that they're wish givers. And Dean goes off on this tangent about, you know, they grant wishes, and then he's like, ooh, genies. And he goes off about, you know, Bewitched, and he goes off about I Dream
Barbara
of Jeannie.
Eden,
Right. And he's like, much, you know, Barbara Eden hotter than the Bewitched chick. I'm like, but Bewitched was a witch. She's not a genie, you know, but still. But it's just fun to see Dean go off in that direction. Of course.
And Sam is wanting Dean to pick him up before he goes adventuring. You know, it's just like, no, you're going to need some help. And Dean's like, nah, it's fine. I got it.
I got this. I can do this. But Sam's also saying, you know, they feed off of people. They hide their lairs, or like big ruins, not like caves or things like that. They're in these big, you know, look for something big. And Dean's like, oh, well, I saw something like that back down the road. But you get a glimpse of the motel that Sam is in. Yeah. And just in the first glimpse of it, you know, they always have those room dividers. There's no deer's head in this one. You know, there's no sunburst clock in this one. But there are the room dividers made up of these like genie bottles, which kind of smacks you in the face.
I didn't catch that.
Oh, all right. So it smacked me in the face. And later on, when there's another scene in the motel room, and it pulls back and it shows you more of the motif of the motel room, and that's where you really see. You're like, oh, genie bottles. I get it. There's more of that. So,
at the end, right? I was just thinking, it's like, when were they in the motel again? But at the last scene. Okay, yeah. So then Dean goes off into this old warehouse, which kind of looks like a journalist's office or something like that. There's a pretty sweet looking typewriter.
I love that. One of those old-fashioned ticky-tacky typewriters with the ribbons. But like next to that typewriter, did you notice there was like pipes? There was like pipe works. And so it's like, were they in a factory maybe? I just thought it was interesting. It was just a weird collection of items on this desk. In this factory or this warehouse, whatever it is they're in, it's like you can hear water dripping. It's kind of cold feeling, but God, I love that typewriter. Sorry.
Yeah. No, the typewriter is super cool. And he's doing the Dean thing, you know, searching through with this flashlight. You see a figure like moving behind him.
That same thing they did before, which is we see something, but the character doesn't. So you're like, it's behind you, you know, type of thing. Yes.
But then Dean gets his little Spidey sense
Spidey
going,
sense.
or
Yes.
Peter Tingle, if you will.
Ew.
I just watched the newest Spider-Man
Oh, is it good?
movie. It's really good, but I hadn't seen the second one.
I
yet.
haven't seen. I can't find it anywhere. For free.
I rented it on Prime. It was like $3 or something like that. But I watched it at work before the movie because Broadway Crew had rented out a theater to for everyone to go see it. So I was just like, oh fuck, I need to see this movie. So I watched it at my desk.
You watched it. Shh.
But there's
I'm
a cute joke in the movies where it's not called Spidey Sense, it's Peter Tingle. But it's like, Aunt May, please stop calling it Peter Tingle.
That's funny.
It's very cute. Anyway.
Oh, okay. Tom Holland. Love you.
Oh, God.
All right, so Dean senses something. He's got his hunter's knife with him. He's got the flashlight. The hunter's knife is obviously been dipped in something because it's like dripping on on his blade. And I hate this. They did this. It's not a jump scare, but they do this camera take where you're looking at the character and then they turn and look behind them. And by the time they turn back to face the camera, you think that's been enough time for something to now be in front of them. Yeah. So you're expecting, we've been trained to expect something to jump out as a, yeah. And then they didn't do it. I'm like, oh, God, I was all primed for this jump and then there was nothing there. But in the next take, in the next clip, there is something there. This thing jumps out at Dean and attacks him. And it's like this guy with amazing tattoos. Like he's bald, but he's tattooed from his neck
literally
over
head
the
to
top
toe.
of his head.
Yeah. Face, arms, hands, everything.
Lips, hands. Yep. And he has the most brilliant blue eyes, like electric blue. It's like my favorite color, blue eyes. And I was like, oh, I was mesmerized. I shouldn't have been, I was like, ooh. And he actually gets the upper hand on Dean. I mean, they tussle for a while, but he does get the upper hand on Dean. Yes, and he's got this blue juice. Well, it's electric juice. Yeah. Something coming out of his hand, and he does, Dean tries to fight it, but he can't, and his hand lands onto Dean's face. And it's like he strokes Dean almost like parents will stroke a baby's head just before they go to sleep. That it was almost a caress. Dean's eyes roll in the back of his head. Title screen. Title screen. A note about this guy, the actor, Mackenzie Gray. Oh yeah. So they wanted something different. In the end, they chose what if he's covered in a bunch of tattoos, because they drew inspiration from an image of one that had henna tattoos on her back. So okay, that, but all over. Okay. However, this makeup took way too long to put on and take off. 4 hours in the chair, to put it on. Oh, man. And then, every single day, that's just a lot of time. So they asked this actor, hey, can you just put this on? Can we just put this on Sunday and then leave it on until we're done filming on Thursday? And then we'll put a chemical on you to take it off. Because I think it was henna. It looked like henna it looked stuff to me. Pretty deep, yeah. And he did. This guy was like, yeah, okay, sure. Oh my God, that's amazing. So he walked around Vancouver with his face covered in tattoos, just going to the market or, trying to catch a cab, which he couldn't. He said, I cannot catch a cab for my life. Cannot do it. Oh my God, I can't come into work today because of what I look like. That's brilliant. I know. Absolutely. I love a performer who's willing to grasp it, both hands, jump in, elbows in. Good for him. Right. You know what? I would have done the same thing. Because I was 4 hours a day doing this? No, just leave it. Yeah, no. Yep, I'm good. Yeah, exactly. God, because that's come in early. That's a 4 a.m. 3 a.m. makeup call. Exactly. Exactly. After the title splash,
there's like an old monster movie like playing on TV.
From hell it came, by the way.
Oh, I was
And
gonna say it looked like a Creature from the Black Lagoon or something, but
yeah, even worse.
I forgot to look it up.
From hell it came, which is
Okay.
it literally is ranked one of the worst movies ever made. From hell it came.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he
And,
wakes up. Dean wakes up, pops out of bed. He's in, like a cold sweat, it seems like,
Yep.
next to a beautiful naked lady.
Beautiful naked lady. Did you notice though? First thing I saw when Dean sits up, he's
His
wearing
necklace?
a silver chain. Yep. The
Yep.
first thing I noticed, I was like, that's wrong.
Yep.
That's wrong. I didn't have to even see that it wasn't the Samulet, charm. The fact that it was a
because
silver
it's
chain,
not
I was like,
leather strap.
first thing I saw, which, obviously he was also shirtless when he sits up. So it made it really easy to see
Yeah.
that he was wearing a silver chain. I was like, something's
Right.
changed.
Right. Yeah. So
Yep.
first thing Dean does is call Sam. Sam, who's like scrolling back on his little BlackBerry or Pilot or whatever the hell it was.
Yep.
Sam answers, and Dean is just like, dude, what's going on? And starts like talking about the gin. He got me. I don't know where he went. I don't know where I am. Sam is very
Like,
confused.
It's like,
Yeah.
have you been drinking?
Yes.
Gin got you? And he's like, no, haven't been drinking. And now Dean's confused.
Yes. Yes. And then Sam just kind of brushes him off. He's like, oh, okay, dude, thanks for the drunk dial. I'll see you tomorrow. And
Right.
hangs up.
Yep.
And then after he hangs up, he closes a book, and it's something law. I forgot
It's
to
a
write
law
down the
book.
title.
It's
Yeah.
no, it's just a law book. It's not, the Quran or a research book. It's a
Nope.
law book. And it's like, oh no. I had to do this, and I'm sorry I did, but when Dean first opens his phone and is scrolling through his messages to try to find like Sam's number, the name on the phone is Christopher Cooper. Like that was, I don't know why Christopher Cooper was written. I think that was.
Are you talking about
'cause Dean-
Sam's phone?
No, it was Dean's phone, because
Okay.
Dean opens his phone and is scrolling through, and he sees that there's been some messages between him and Sam, and he clicks on this message. And the message was saying, hey, I'm sorry it's been so long. Things have been crazy. I know we haven't been in touch. It was like that type of message. But it said to Sam, but it didn't say from Dean. It said from Christopher Cooper, which I'm assuming was just one of those like burn phone names that Dean would have had on his phone.
Are you
Like,
sure it wasn't Sam's phone? I thought that Sam
I-
was like scrolling through his BlackBerry, and if it did say to Sam from Christopher Cooper, wouldn't Sam be like reading that message on his BlackBerry, and then he's like, "Oh, weird," and then picks up the phone when he sees Dean calling?
We can totally double check it, but I swear to God, it
I don't
was
wanna
when
take the time.
Dean. All right. Anyway, the name on the phone, Christopher Cooper. I was like, "Who's Christopher Cooper?" Because why would they have zoomed in on it? He's the props master, so it's just another one of those
okay.
call outs of props guys putting themselves into the episode.
Fun. Okay, so now Dean is very confused, even more. It's like, okay, that's kind of a cold shoulder phone call. I'm not sure what's going on. Where am I? Like looking around this house he's never been in before. Picks up the mail, finds out that he's in Lawrence. That is the correct zip code for Lawrence, by the way. So
So not fake. Yay, good.
props to the people. That beautiful naked lady wakes up and starts speaking to him as
As if a couple. Yes.
yes, like they're familiar with each other. She's like, hey, honey, what's going on? Why are you awake? Want me to lull you back to sleep? And he's like,
Yes, but
yes.
but first, what's going on, which I thought was interesting. That above all else, Dean, as horndog as he is, was still like, I have to figure out what's going on first,
Yeah.
before letting this beautiful woman seduce me. Oh God, he's just seemed so confused. I felt so bad for him. 'Cause
Okay, you wake up, you're in a complete,
strange
like it's
house.
a complete 180 from like where you were. You're like living a home life. You have a girlfriend. You see pictures with her
Of you
and
as a couple.
Yeah, like hanging out.
Yep. Her mail is with your mail, and your mail is with her mail.
Yep. But then he picks up
and-
one photo that we don't see, but it's enough to evoke like a stunned reaction. That so much so that he just drops the photo, breaks it, and just like bolts out the door.
And I love that idea. I love that this made us ask ourselves what was on the photo. You know, I'm now an active participant in this mystery. I'm like, what's happening? What was on the photo? What made him run? I was like, it has to be Dad. I was like, it has to be something about Dad, which I am proven wrong.
Yes, because in the next scene, he drives up to a house, knocks on the door. It's Mom.
It's Mom.
Winchester.
And suddenly it's like all the cinematography changes. I mean, it's not like click, it changes, but it's like that's when you start to see, it's like you hear crickets chirping in the background and the light, even on the porch light, because it is the middle of the night when he goes pounding on her door. It's like pound, 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 doorbell, doorbell, doorbell. And it's like she opens the door and she's just bathed in this beautiful, soft, glowing light, and her hair is down. And she's this beautiful, you know, mom. And he just like, you could feel his heart stop for just a second when she opened the door because she reaches for him. She's like, Dean, are you okay? Like, you know, what are you doing here in the middle of the night? But she reaches out to touch him and he flinches like, you know, literally as if he'd been touched by a ghost.
Right. But he's with it enough to ask a test question. Like he's kind of been through this before. You know, Sam was, you know, possessed and. You know,
right. You gotta have the test questions.
Yes. So he asks her, what did you used to tell me when I was young before I went to sleep?
Yeah. Angels are watching over you. And that's the right answer.
Yes. And now he gives in with the hugs.
Yes. Like almost overly enthusiastic hugs, but just drinking her in, you know. And so she invites him in. You know, obviously she's concerned about Dean because the Dean that she knows wouldn't have shown up on her doorstep, you know, unless
and he's also
something was wrong.
Yeah, but he's also asking like odd questions. Like think about if someone in your life that you see all the time, like just starts asking.
What did you say to me when I was a kid?
Right. Did there used to be a fire in our house when we were younger?
Right. Right. And then, you know, do you think wishes can come true? Yeah. Come on in, honey. Let's sit down.
Yeah. So commentary note. Eric was so happy that he could bring Sam Smith in for this so that the audience could finally meet her. Right, because she's had like 2 words, you know, maybe 4, you know.
John.
John, I'm sorry. And, yes, exactly.
Boom.
Right. So now he's just like, now she becomes a personality. She becomes a person in their life that we get to know.
She was great.
Yes.
I mean, just Dean's reaction to her was...
He also praised Jensen like up and down in this episode.
Really?
I mean, he loves both of them, but just because this one was Jensen focused, you know, he's like, he is like a surgical instrument in his reactions and facial expressions and his, well, not just the facial expressions, but the like what he gives to the story. I don't know. I just thought that was really sweet. That
is really sweet that he gives him that, you know. I mean, he's an artist. I mean, everyone thinks of TV actors as just like actors, but it's like, but there's an art and a science and a talent, you know, to being an actor. Right. And that's why there are bad actors. And I don't think Jensen is a bad actor. I think he's quite wonderful. Yeah. And he brings there's levels to Dean that he could just be, you know, a jerk tough guy. But we see these levels of there's a reason why he is the way he is. And we also see in this episode of who he could be if things went a different way in his life. You know, the guy he could be. That's
kind of funny that you say that because Eric wanted him to be like a complete loser.
Really?
Yes, like take like what he was, you know, because he keeps being accused of, you know, drinking all day and
stealing,
a little bit of a slacker. He wanted that to be like exponentially bigger.
Oh.
But he was fought by like virtually everybody. They're just like, you cannot do that. Do not do that. Please do not do that. But he was like, but why, if he was like perfect, if he was the Dean he is in real life, plus he gets everything that he wanted in this life, why would you
leave?
go? Why would you leave?
Yeah.
So there needed to be some tension. So he did get to keep the strained relationship of him and Sam.
Yes.
He's like, nope, that has to stay, even though he was fought on that too.
Right.
He kept a couple of the things, it's like he's got a drinking problem a little bit. But
right, because this is one of the first thing Mom says to him is, have you been drinking? Or actually she's like, oh, honey, you've been drinking.
Right.
And Dean's like, no.
Yeah.
No, and throughout the episode, people keep accusing Dean of having been drinking, which means clearly he's a drinker. He's accused of so many different things that
I know.
But again, through Carmen, through this girlfriend, she shows you the level of, I would say, who he could be. Mm-hmm. That she has attached himself, that he's not so bad, he's not so derelict, that she jokes about slumming, with him, but what woman doesn't joke about slumming?
Right. So back to this house, and he's just, again, as you said, drinking it all in, asking these strange questions. But he's looking through all of the photos that she has posted throughout the house. Yep. It lends us to believe that they had a very normal apple pie-ish life. There's like these family photos of all four of them.
Yep.
The
Christmas
one with the
family photos.
Yeah, Kripke thought that was the funniest thing he's ever seen in his life.
Well, because it's like ugly sweater and Santa hat
exactly.
photos.
It's just like these Winchesters are the type of people who would have a Christmas card of them wearing matching sweaters.
Right. But even like the wallpaper is like these giant roses, and it's
very flowery. But
yes.
So he does come across a picture of Dad in a softball uniform.
Yes. Which I find humorously foreshadowable, even though they had no idea that Jeffrey Dean Morgan was going to go on to be the character he was in Walking Dead with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was fun little, like, oh my God, had they only known.
An accidental Easter egg, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. God. When I went back and watched it the second time, I was like, oh, had they only known. But yeah, so again, it's this idyllic life, dad's on a softball team, and, here's our Christmas, our funny Christmas pictures. And Dean's like, oh, Dad's on a softball team. Oh, this is great. And then looks at, Mom, because Mom said, well, that was Dad's softball team. That was like his favorite thing, was that silly softball team.
Yeah, she said something in past tense, which then made him go, oh.
Oh, so Dad is dead.
Yes.
Yeah. And she's like, yes. How did he die? He died of a stroke. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Which, given what we know about how
much better
Dad
than a
died,
demon.
much better than right. Oh no, in his sleep, that's the way to go. Good. Yeah. And that's when Mom number 2. When Mom says for the second time, you've been drinking.
Yeah.
Oh, no. That's Mom's first time saying, have you been drinking?
Oh,
the first time was
right.
Sam said, have you been drinking? The gin.
Yes.
But that is the second time. And this whole time, Mom is trying to get Dean to, like, go home. Right. Not forcefully, but just like,
she's just like, what are you doing here? Carmen, and he says,
she's worried about you.
I want to stay here.
And she's like, are you okay? And Dean says, I think so. Yeah. Like he's like, now that I am where I am, he's like, I think I am okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm home. I'm with Mom. And and so she's like, all right, honey. So she goes to bed. Dean falls asleep on the couch, and he falls asleep like surrounded by family photos. The last picture he sees is a photo of, I think it's Sam's graduation. So it's Mom, Dad, and Sam in his cap and gown. I was like, oh, so, maybe Dean took the picture because Dean wasn't in the picture. I was like, so maybe Dean was taking.
No, Eric said something about that, because Dean would have been the type of guy to not go to his graduation. in this
well,
life.
I figured it was because of something Sam says later about what Dean did to him in high school. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, good for you, Valerie, for noticing that Dean wasn't in the picture. So I was like patting myself on the back for noticing that.
That was an actual picture of Jared in his graduation. Like a lot of the ones of when they're younger and they're kids, it is their photos, but obviously they've been Photoshop manipulated, with
into
everybody.
The Winchesters,
Yeah.
I love that. They must have had a great time, like going through their photo albums to decide what photos to use. That must have been so much fun.
Yeah.
Especially for, I would say, the company to be like,
yeah.
Look at your high school photos.
Yeah.
But so Dean wakes up the next morning. He's still at mom's. Birds are chirping.
Yeah.
Sun is shining. He's a little bit confused when he first wakes up.
Yeah, I think he was kind of really happy that it wasn't a dream. Like maybe he was worried it was just a dream. And then like him waking up in the same place was like, okay. Yep. Okay, that's good, but also bad because I still don't know what's going on.
Still don't know what's going on. And but he calls. So the first thing he does is when he sits up, he calls Sam, but there's no answer. Right. It goes to voicemail.
Right. Not that it would help him anyway, right? Because he was like, okay, he wasn't much of a help before.
Right. You didn't help me with something happened with the gin and you were no help. I'll just see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, I just told you I was attacked by something supernatural, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So in true Dean fashion, he sets out on his own to find his own answers. And he ends up at a college professor's office. Yeah, which is kind of that's like the Winchester thing to do, is to disguise themselves as a student to like pump somebody for information about their mythical creature that they're hunting.
Yeah.
This is not the first time they've done this.
No, nor will it be the last. But you know what? It would work because there was one year when I was attending KU, which is in Lawrence, actually, but it's a bigger college. But I had a friend who, I had like a big chunk of time in between my classes. So I would just go to his political science class with him, and I just sit there with him and do it. And he would come to my something else class, archaeology, I think. The professors were none the wiser. There's so many freaking kids in those
lecture classes are huge. Yeah. There's hundreds of kids sitting in those classes.
Yeah, exactly. So this would totally work. Like if I were to go to that professor, that political science professor, and be like, "Hey, I need some research on." I don't know, something political
on a gin.
Yeah, on a gin. Right, yeah. His question would be like, what the fuck's a gin? Not, who are you?
Right. But no, you're right. They absolutely fit in, with the exception that Dean's not been to college. And so he doesn't quite fit in. Yeah. But he still gets the professors to talk to him and answer a lot of his questions. To the point where the professor's saying, jinns have godlike powers. They can alter reality based on the mythology. He's not saying jinns can actually do this. He's saying the mythology is. Yes. So, but Dean is still like, oh, they can? Do you think they can grant actual wishes? And the professor's like, no, because it's mythology.
But why?
And that's a prevailing question through this entire episode. Why? Why this? Why that? Why us? Why me? Why would? There's a whole lot of whys asked in this entire episode. And I kept circling that. I was like, good question. You know, this is a good question. Yeah. The professor even says, you've been drinking? Yes. Because Dean's like, why would a djinn do this? Why would a creature or a god or whatever offer a wish to somebody? What does that get him? Yeah. This scene was added later because they were trying to, because there's an obstacle for Dean, right? Like usually he has Sam to bounce things off of, or, the other people in his life, you could call Bobby or, Roadhouse people.
but he doesn't have that here. So how does he work through this without his partner in crime? They did have apparently a bunch of just solo monologues of like Dean like talking to himself, I guess. But Eric Kripke was like, that was really lame. So we ended up doing this like later. It was like one of the last things that they figured out.
Oh, the professor bit.
Yeah,
that's great because I love the actor who was the professor. I thought he did a great job.
Yeah,
you know,
he was just like, what's
going on with you, son? Yeah. I love that little scene because it also was a little comic relief, you know, in what could have been really tense, sad, or emotional scenes. A little bit of comic relief because that was definitely Dean back in his element of researching, you know, or finding answers in his own way.
Yeah.
And you've been drinking? No. And it's like, and Dean kind of gave a look.
Why do people keep asking me that?
So clearly the Dean in this particular reality drinks.
Right.
You know? And I love the, like, after he leaves the professor's office, he like opens the trunk of the Impala. He's like out on the street, opens the trunk, and there's nothing. There's no weapons. There's no like hunter stuff. It's trash and Maxim magazine, and you know. And he's like, "Hey, who knew?"
Yeah.
What does he call? He doesn't say, "Hey, we're regulars." He's like, "Oh, we're civilians." That's what he says. He's like, "Who knew? We're civilians." And he seems okay with that. Like he seems somewhat relieved that there aren't weapons in his trunk.
Yeah.
You know. So a part of me was like, you know, the idea that the heroes are the heroes because they choose to be the heroes is challenged in this. They're the heroes because they have to be the heroes by circumstances. And so to see him, you know, see Dean kind of relieved that he doesn't have to have a trunk full of weapons. He gets to maybe go home to the girlfriend at the end of the night, you know, seems... You know, it's like, oh.
Yeah. However, on that note, he turns around and sees a very spooky girl just standing there in the middle of the sidewalk of the campus, staring at him while everyone else is just walking around her. Seems not to really notice her.
Yeah, she's staring at him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he makes a run for her, but she disappears at some point.
Yeah, he's almost hit by a car as he's crossing the street. And so he's distracted. And when he looks up again, she's gone. And he's got that, you know, there's the question of, you know, what is this? Why am I seeing this? But then back at Mom's, Dean is taking a Dagwood sized bite out of looks like to be like the most delicious BLT sandwich.
Oh my God. It was like, it looked and sounded like the best sandwich ever.
It was crunchy and
hungry just thinking about it, honestly.
In my mind, I went straight to giant BLT, just like toasted bread, you know, and because his eyes rolled in the back of his head. He's like, he takes a bite and he's like, Mom, this is the best sandwich ever. So imagine, of course, it's the best sandwich. The sandwiches your mom makes for you are the best sandwiches. Yeah. You know, he's been living on the road his entire life eating shitty diner food. Yeah. And now he's back at his mom's house and she's making him a sandwich. She could have made him, you know, a bologna and cheese and it still would have been the best sandwich ever.
Right. Do you ever get, like, when you watch, I don't know how many cartoons you watch or have watched in your life, but have you ever seen like a cartoon food that you just like so desperately want to eat or want to know what it tastes like in real life?
Like every time, because they make it sound and look so delicious.
Oh my God. The Krabby Patties on SpongeBob are so delicious looking. And I'm just like, I just want so many of those. I want to try a Krabby Patty. But is this just the way they draw it or something? It just looks like so shiny and juicy and voluptuous. I don't know. But I have a thing about like TV foods.
There's something about it.
Yes, like this sandwich, I was just like, oh my God, I just want to eat that.
I just wanted that sandwich. Yeah, and not just because of Jensen.
Every time he was crunching it, you know, it was just like, oh, that just.
But that's why I thought it was like the best BLT ever, because a BLT to me, when it's made right, it's got all the elements of just an amazing sandwich.
Yes.
And I'm drinking all my wine because now my mouth is pooling because wow. And it didn't hurt that it was Jensen eating the sandwich, but the fact that he was taking so much joy, not like perverse pleasure, but actual joy in eating his mom's sandwich.
Yeah.
It just made me smile. It just made me smile at how happy he was.
Yeah. So he learns through mom being like, why aren't you at work?
Which is something I never would have thought of because
I know, me neither.
His job is hunting. Same thing with Dean. He's like, I have a job.
Yeah. And it's at a garage.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Because he's got the day off, though.
Yeah, his answer is, I've got the day off. Yeah. And then he's like looking around again, hearing the birds chirping and stuff and eating this wonderful sandwich. He looks out the window and goes, hey, looks like your yard could use a mow. And she's like, you want to mow the yard? Have at it.
Yes.
It's, as if you've never mowed a lawn before. And, of course, the knowing look Dean gives us is he hasn't mowed a lot of lawns in his life.
And the next scene definitely shows he hasn't. Like, he has no idea how to work his lawnmower.
He can't even, make the turn with the lawnmower.
He's just one pass. He just picks it up and moves it.
What I love, though, is that it's playing, What a Wonderful World.
Yeah, the Jimmy Eat World version.
Yes, it's the total punk version, which I love. I forgot to tell you, on my drive, okay, so as you know, we didn't get a chance to record this in the time period that we wanted to record this podcast. On my drive here to my parents' house, two amazing things happened. One, as I was leaving the city, there's one of those drive safe signs, buckle up, drive safe signs.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The sign literally said, what is your wish today? That was one of those signs. And I was like, what? And of course I was driving too fast to actually acknowledge what the sign was. It probably says, slow down. What would your wish be today? But I was like, oh, what? Then about an hour later, I was driving. What a Wonderful World came on my playlist, but it was the Louis Armstrong one. Uh-huh. But still, I was like, what are the chances I'm on my way to go record the podcast and I hear this song? And it was just so nice to hear that What a One. It was just so nice to hear the Louis Armstrong version. Plus, having seen that sign about wishes, I was like, it's kismet. Oh, this is when we're going to record the podcast. It was like there's a reason why we couldn't. Yeah. No, but we did. We're doing it now. No, meaning there's a reason why we couldn't do it prior.
Oh, right.
And now is the right time to record the podcast.
Yes.
So I'm so sorry. I had to throw that in there, but I was like, it was just kismet. It was circumstantial. It was great.
No, that's so great. You mentioned, hold on. It's cool that you mentioned kismet because, okay, in the scene before at college, it's raining. And Kripke is like, look at how much it's raining. Vancouver just rains like a mother. It's always raining. These actors and the crew always have to go out 24/7 in the rain and in the cold. And it doesn't look like it's raining that much on the camera, but oh my God, rain.
We know it's raining.
All the time. Yeah. But then this day, the day we were scheduled to film this lawn mowing scene.
The sunshine day.
The sun came out for the few hours that we needed to film it. That's real sunlight that's shining there. It's not artificial. They're outside. They're not in a set.
I want to read to you what I wrote down in my notes. Okay, right here. How long did they wait to get a sunny day to shoot? That I literally wrote that down. Yeah. How long did they wait for a sunny day to shoot? Because this is the most sunshiny day I've ever seen in the history of Supernatural up to this point.
It just looks fake, It looks like
the grass is green.
Yeah,
the flowers are super bright.
It looks like the scene from Little Shop of Horrors when she's singing somewhere that's green, and it's the white little picket fence and the AstroTurf, and it just looks just like that.
So fake, but beautifully fake. It's just so sunshiny and happy, and I love that again with the punk version, with the Jimmy World version of It's a Wonderful World.
Yeah,
perfect for Dean. Perfect for Dean in this moment. And it also made me think of My Blue Heaven, which was a Steve Martin.
Oh, I love that movie.
where he's out there in his like seersucker suit and he's like, "It's a beautiful day for a mow,"
Yeah.
They're mowing the lawn. He's just that's kind of what I felt like, because even Dean is like waving to the neighbor across the street, like,
Yeah, and
"Howdy,
he's like,
neighbor," and the neighbor's like,
"Okay."
"What?" So out of place in his like boots and jeans.
I know.
I loved that scene.
Yes. But that
all
was
right.
real sun, and Eric was like, "Oh my god!" And even he said he kept getting like cracks, like, "Who did you make a deal with to get this day? Like, what demon
Right,
came
what
in?
demon, what crossroad demon did you kiss
I
to
know, because
to get this?
Right, because he was also like, I'm always getting flack for how dark it is. Like the show is so dark, and it's just like,
Right.
okay, I'll just turn on the sun, no problem. You know?
And it was a gorgeous sunny day,
Yes.
bright flowers, bright grass, the sunlight on just Jensen himself. Of course, I mean, he's an attractive man anyway, but put him in beautiful sunlight, and it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like at the end of the day when he's finally done mowing the lawn, he's sitting in the sun drinking a beer, which I'm like is perfect, because if you've ever spent a day mowing the lawn, the one thing you want is a beer. You
a cold
really
beer.
do. You don't want your ice water. You want a nice cold beer. And the fact that he just sat on the porch afterwards, like on the front stoop, drinking his beer, I was like, good for him. You know? And in that moment, that's when Sam pulls up in his rental car.
Yeah.
Sam gets out of the car, and Jessica gets out of the car. And Dina's like, oh my God. Runs down, gives Jess this like giant hug, so much to the point where she's like, can't breathe.
Yep.
You know? And Dean is just so excited to see that Sam is with Jessica, that this part of his life has happened.
Yes. And that he is in Stanford. You know, he learns he came from California. Oh my God, you're in Stanford.
Yes.
I'm so happy.
Yeah,
and
so
Sam
happy.
But Sam is like not reciprocating this happiness, right? He's like,
and he's kind of like douchey preppy at the same time. I was just like, a little douchey preppy.
Yeah.
And notes that Dean has a beer. That's one of the first things he says to Dean is like, oh, I see you decided to kick off Mom's birthday with a bang. And I was like, well, that was kind of a dick thing to say, given that Dean's just been mowing the lawn. He can have a beer. But clearly it shows that Dean maybe can't just have a beer.
Right. It's one thing for some people, yes, they can just have a beer. And other people, when you see them have a beer in their hand, you're like, oh.
Yep. And I actually know people like
I
that.
do too.
I know those people. I loved though that Dean is enjoying the fact that he can fill in the blanks, like he's like, California, Stanford. Yeah, I bet you go to law school, you know, and he's so proud of himself that he's like, I know these answers. I can fill in the blanks. You know,
although it
and
doesn't
Sam
help his image, you know.
It doesn't, because Sam's like, yeah, I go to Stanford. Why wouldn't you know that I go to Stanford? Of course I'm with Jess. Of course I, you know. And I was like, oh, but Dean was so happy. He's so happy with the reality that he's discovering, but he's also happy that he is the one to be able to be like, you know, here's the answer.
Yes.
Here are the answers. So Dean didn't know that it was Mom's birthday. He's like, oh, that's why you're here. You guys, Jess and Sam flew in from California to Kansas because it's Mom's birthday. Okay. You know, so the next thing we see is that they're at this fancy schmancy restaurant. There's like the classical music playing in the background. Everyone's wearing the women are wearing black evening gowns.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's dressed, and it's a lovely, there's clinky in the background, you know, glasses tinkling.
They've got the dishes that are brought out are like those weird plated things, or like small portions of food that are expensive
that you wouldn't order for yourself. And luckily, because you see Dean, he's like, he doesn't know what to do with these small
great
plates.
Vegetables.
Yes, stalks of asparagus.
Yes.
And thankfully, Carmen leans over and is like, we're going to go get a burger after this. You know, so it's like she knows Dean, and you know, she's not putting on airs. She knows what he likes, and you know that this isn't his thing, but they're doing this for Mom.
Right.
You know, but also just makes me like Carmen the girlfriend, even better
Right.
because she's
and
not,
them as a couple too. So
as
it's
a
like, oh
couple.
wow, they
Yeah.
really like fit well together
Yes.
because she's awesome.
Yes. I even wrote that Carmen is a cool chick. So in that same scene, of course, Sam and Jess reveal that they're engaged and everybody's super happy that they're engaged.
Yes.
Yay. And Dean is genuinely happy. The look on his face, you can just see his like everything relaxes on him. He is genuinely happy for the circumstances that are just like unveiling in front of him, that are just every moment that happens. The next moment is a good moment. The next moment's a better moment.
Right. Right.
And he's not upset or jealous or surprised. He's like, this is the way it should be. And you just see him be so happy for Sam and Dean. And for Sam and Dean, for Sam and Jess.
Yes. Yeah. And amidst these congratulations, though, he sees again the spooky girl.
The girl. Yeah.
In the corner of his eye. But she looks a little bit more deteriorated than she did before. Before she was kind of fresh. Ish.
She's like,
but now
ish. She's distressed. Her dress is a little bit dirtier. She's got, you can see blood on her face.
Yeah.
She looks just a little bit more fatigued.
Right.
And distressed. Right. And once again, when Dean goes to her, he disappears. He's distracted for a second. He's bumped by somebody.
Yeah.
And she disappears. And this time, however, it's like when he turns around, he looks back and he sees his family looking at him.
Yeah, like, okay.
What's going
up now?
What is
wrong
Dean
with you
done?
now?
Yep. What has Dean done now?
Yeah.
So cut to now they're all back home. They're back at the house.
They're back home. Dean is still like firing on all cylinders. He's just like, no, man, we gotta go out. We gotta celebrate. You guys are
got a beautiful woman. I've got a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
I love though. Now we're going to bed, but Dean's like, no, it's like 8:30.
Yeah.
Let's go out. Let's go celebrate our lives.
Right. Yeah. And Sam gets a wall.
It's like,
Yeah,
he's like, can you talk? Let's go talk over here.
Let's chat.
Let's go chat.
And this is when Sam kind of divulges what their relationship actually is in this reality, which is...
And it's not the regular relationship that we're used to.
And it's not great. Dean has stolen from him. He has ruined special events in his life, such as like going home with Sam's prom date on prom night,
right?
Which is a very shitty move.
Stole money from stole his wallet or stole his ATM card. Stole his girlfriend or his prom date. I mean, just Dean's kind of a shit. So you kind of understand that. Why Sam would be distant from him. Right.
He's just like, listen, we're family, I've gotten past it, but, we just don't really have anything in common. So I don't understand this whole like lovey-dovey thing you got going on. The Sammy, you never call me Sammy.
Why are you calling me Sammy? Yeah, exactly. Which like
it's weird.
Yeah. And what's weird is like poor Dean is like, even if I was this jerk, it's like, but we're still brothers and we're still these guys. And Sam is just in these moments, the way they colored Sam's kind of the douchebag. I mean, Dean's the jerk for the things he's done, but Sam comes across as like, for me, he comes across as a douchebag.
Because you don't like Sam. You don't. You always have such a hard-on for Dean, and poor Sam always gets the short end of the stick and everything. And like in the seasons to come, he's always the one that's like, "Oh man, you're the worst thing ever." And it's like he's really not, though. He's just like getting thrown into these situations. So in this one, if his brother never actually apologized to him beyond this, like in his view, right? He doesn't know that Dean has come from an alternate reality.
True.
And, Dean's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. And that's it. That's the only apology that he gets.
Right.
From having stolen money from him, stolen his girlfriend from him, right underneath his nose, like on an iconic high school night. Who knows what else that he's done in the years that have passed. So they've grown apart, and Sam's like, okay, this is how we live our lives now. And for Dean to all of a sudden come in and be like, hey, I just want to be chummy now.
But I'm a good guy, yeah.
Yeah.
So... honestly, let me ask you, because I get the impression from what you just said, that in this episode, the way that they color Dean, which is, we know at this point that he's suffering an alternate reality.
Yeah.
Something is out of his control, that he's not where he needs to be. Things aren't the way he's used to. So for me, I'm watching Dean suffer through this episode. Whereas Sam in this episode, in this reality, he's painted as cold and aloof, with good reason, based on what we've just heard. But he is still painted as cold and aloof and not being the Sam we know Dean needs him to be. That's how I see it. And I just wonder if it's intentional to make me feel more antagonized towards Sam and more empathetic towards Dean. Which is exactly what happened for me. Is I feel 100% empathy for Dean. I don't like that I just learned that he stole his prom date and that he's stolen money from him in this timeline. But I'm still empathetic towards Dean and slightly antagonistic towards Sam, because he's hurting Dean with his truths and with his reality. But that's how this episode made me feel. And I know I come across as anti-Sam now that you actually throw it in my face like that. And it's fine. I mean, you are absolutely right. You are 100% right. I am more, yes, Dean's actual characteristics as Dean, I don't like everything about him, but I am more drawn to him than I am to the purity of Sam. Sam is definitely a more pure of character. He was dragged into this against his will, but he still did it. He still made the decision to come into hunting again, but he's more of a purist. He's definitely more of a saintly character than Dean is, I would say. But for some reason, I am still more team Dean. That's just the way it is for me. So
that's fine. You have every right to. I felt sympathy and empathy for Dean as well, in that I felt bad that they did not have the relationship that, is like he kind of traded one thing for the other, right? So like, yes, he got mom back. He also has like this life that maybe he didn't really know that he wanted, but he's learning to really like it. But that was all, traded for this relationship that he now has with his brother, that has like, they worked for that relationship, right? And now it's like gone, and he has to start that again, because he says that later, like not too much later,
it's like, I can make
in this scene. He's just like, well, we do have something in common. It's hunting. Sam, of course, doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's just like, I've never hunted in my life, meaning deer, He's like, well, we should go sometime. And when he's with his girlfriend later in the place in his house, he makes like a declaration. It's like, Sam and I don't get along, and that really bothers me, and I'm gonna make it right. And I like that character trait about Dean, but I didn't feel antagonistic towards Sam, just because it's like that's the cards he was dealt in this life. Like Sam.
Well, he doesn't know anything about the other life.
Right,
he doesn't know.
Because like Dean came in knowing
what he's lost
and gained and all of that. Right. So he's completely 100% aware. The other characters in this play are not aware. I took that as like, no, Sam didn't go from loving his brother to all of a sudden being a jerk to his brother.
No. I guess, yes, no, you are absolutely right. I guess my point for me is that the lack of the real Sam for me hurts. Right. And it makes me not like this current Sam, because I know who Sam can really be. Yeah, no. So.
Yeah, I'm on that page too. Speaking of the boys, they both had a really hard time doing these scenes together, like doing this, like, we hate each other kind of stuff. Oh, like they both apparently separately came to Kripke, on their own accords, and be like, this is really hard. Like, I don't like doing this. I don't like acting like I hate my brother.
I hate him.
Or that we don't get along.
I hated seeing it. I hated seeing that side of Sam. I mean, this separate Sam. I hated that separate Sam. And that's what I was talking about in the very beginning. The stuff you're supposed to hate, I hated, and
Yeah.
it makes me like this episode because it made me feel those things.
Yeah.
The thing for like watching this is with Dean recognizing what he's put this Sam through in this timeline,
Yeah.
it's still breaking his heart that he did those. He knows that he is capable of hurting Sam the way he's hurt Sam.
Yeah,
and
because
he
even
realizes
says
that
about his prom date thing. He's just like, yeah, that
he's
does
like,
kind
that
of sound
sounds
like
like me. Yeah, and it's like, and I hate that about Dean. I hate Dean being that guy, and I think he hates that. So seeing his heartbreak for what he's done, or what he's been capable of because he hurt Sam, and he's now made it like this is their reality, is that they're not brothers, they don't have a relationship. I'm like, it hurts me. That's what I loved about this episode, is that my heart broke for Dean, watching him realize what he's done.
Yeah.
And with Sam, I felt bad that Sam didn't have the relationship with Dean that he could have had, because it's a cool relationship.
Yeah.
Right. But he's also kind of a preppy douchebag because of it. So, but Dean in his Deanness says, I can make it up to everyone. Like, I can fix this. I can make it. This isn't the way it should be. I can make this work. And he says that to Carmen.
Yes, because he feels like he's been given a second chance and he doesn't want to waste it, which she doesn't understand. He doesn't expect her to, because, he's not going to go through all that explanation.
But she's like, but she accepts that, though. She accepts, she's like, okay, I don't understand it, but she embraces it. And as it turns out, and most of us, I think at some point thought Carmen was maybe a stripper, just because of Dean and his propensity to have that, I guess, type of relationship. But Carmen, turns out she's a nurse.
Yes, because, they lead into that, right? Because she's just like, oh, I'm working the night shift because they were about to go look brown chicken, brown cow. Then she pulls out Scrubs. And he's like, oh, I'm dating a nurse. How respectable of me.
Look at me. I'm dating a nurse. But then this shows, again, how cool Carmen is, because she's like, yeah, I'm dating down.
Yeah, right.
He's like, how lucky am I? And she's like, you're just lucky that I'm, I have low standards.
Yes.
Although I did think it was funny that the way they reveal that she's a nurse is that she pulls Scrubs out of the closet because she's getting ready for work. But she takes this set of Scrubs out and holds them against her body. Like, should I wear this scrub or this scrub? And I was like, what? They're just fucking scrubs. No nurse is going to be like, should I wear the scrubs?
Right.
They already have her hospital IDs clipped on them. All right. So she's a nurse. We get it.
Yeah.
Not a stripper.
So she goes to work. And Dean is left surfing the web, just kind of browsing around. No, he's watching TV.
No, he's watching TV. Passes by Thundercats, by the way.
Yes.
Looking through the channels. Thundercats, which is what, of course, they watched as kids, but yeah.
And then he comes across a channel where it's the anniversary of a plane crash. The very same plane crash that they stopped from happening in episode 4, season 1.
Phantom Traveler.
Yes.
And Dean's like, no, we stopped that. That didn't happen.
Yeah, because 108 people died or something like that on that plane. Yeah. He's like, no, I stopped that. Which then sends him down
to the internet.
Awful rabbit hole. Yeah. Of just looking up all of the cases that he has worked in his life. Yep. None of them solved. So the little girl drowned in the pool of that hotel.
Something wicked. Oh, wait, no. The little girl drowned in Playthings.
Yeah.
The parents were mutilated in Everybody Loves a Clown. And a whole bunch of kids were dropped into a coma and died in something wicked. Yeah. And so it's all these headlines of cases that he and Sam actually prevented, solved and prevented. And he's like, oh no, what's happening now?
Yeah.
And I just want to say, hold that little nugget that all the idea of all the people that they've saved have now actually died. Just hold that nugget for about 20 years.
Right.
No spoilers. So Dean's looking up on the computer
And then
while
there's
he's
a
on the
shadow.
computer.
Yep, there's a little
Yeah,
shadow
there's
behind
like
him.
something shadows behind him, and he does the little spidey sense. I'm sorry, the Peter tingle. And so he like goes and follows whatever the shadow is. He goes into his bedroom. There's nothing there. So he opens his closet door, and there's two bodies hanging in his closet, and they're these like dried out, almost mummified
Oh yeah.
bodies hanging with
There's
their arms over
corpses.
their heads, corpses hanging in his closet. And it scares him, and it scared me. It was a jump out moment. It was like a jump scare,
Yeah.
but but because
"Ooh."
he jumped, I jumped, because he was like, "Ugh." He was not expecting to see corpses hanging in his
No,
closet.
who would?
And as he does that like jump scare, jump back, he turns around, and there's the girl in white, right? The girl that he's seen those other two
girl.
times.
Who is
Spooky
even
girl.
more
And-
deteriorated than
Yes.
that second time that he saw her. I mean, she's still
Yep.
like alive and standing, but barely,
Right. But this time she glitches. She does the like electric ghost glitch
Yep.
that you coined. She glitches and then disappears.
He turns
so the
around
next-
and the corpses have also
Corpses have
disappeared, and now it's just a regular
disappeared.
closet.
Yep. And so the next cut we see, Dean is at the cemetery where Dad's headstone is. So poor Dean in this reality, again, as you mentioned, has no one to talk to.
Yeah.
He doesn't have Sam to bounce things off. He doesn't have the roadhouse, no Bobby. And so he's found his dad's tombstone and is now talking to Dad
Yeah.
and crying and talking to Dad. And it's, again, Jensen is just wonderful in these moments because he's not weeping, he's not blubbering.
No, he's in pain. He's in pain because, he's having this wonderful life, desperately just does not really want to be the hero right now. It's like, I just want to live my life. I just want to, have my mom. I want to have my girlfriend. I want my brother to have his girlfriend.
Right.
Why can't we have these things?
Right. That's the biggest point though, because he's not about me. He's like, Mom is alive. Mom gets to live.
Yeah.
Jess gets to live and Sam gets to marry Jess. He's thinking about everybody else's life and their happiness that they get to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, Dean.
Well, I also do think that, because he asks, why is it my job to save these people? Why do I have to make these sacrifices? And
Right.
I don't even mean just like his sacrifices, but
No.
all of
He
these
says, "Why
sacrifices
me?"
of other people. And he says,
Yeah.
why me?
Why
do I
me?
have to do this? Why can't,
Yep.
and I think it's like, why can't I have this family that I so desperately want?
Right. And
I
my
want
happiness,
the relationship with my mom, who I want to be alive,
Yep. Yep. I
it's
get my
everybody's
happiness
happiness.
from their, yeah, exactly.
This was like a huge comic book. It felt like a comic book moment to me. Like I could almost see it on the page, like the drawings of an inked-in Dean, standing at the grave, and then the close-ups. And it could have been also that I had just seen Spider-Man, because this is very a Spider-Man-y moment, because with great power comes great responsibility, right? And while he doesn't have spider powers, he does have ghost hunting skills.
Right.
Almost every Spider-Man story comes a point where he's just like, I don't want to have to do this. I just want to live a regular life.
Right. But that's the definition of a hero, though. If you
Right.
look up the definition of a hero, it's somebody who does what nobody else will do, even when they don't want to do it.
Right.
That's the definition of a hero. It's not somebody who's out there going, haha, I will do this.
Sure.
It's somebody who's like, I will do this because I have to. And even though I don't want to, I will do it.
Yeah,
That's
but even the
hero.
heroes have moments of weakness, or not weakness, but just like, I just don't want to.
I don't want to, but that's.
I want somebody else to do it for me. Just for
I don't want
like
to have to
a
do
day.
it. Yeah, I don't want to have to be the hero. I will be the hero, but
Yes.
I don't want to have to be.
And Dean leaves the grave, knowing what Dad would have said.
And it's the most beautiful walk away they've done. Dean walks away from the tombstone. He's alone. He's by himself. The tomb has not answered him, And it's just this beautiful walk away of Dean walking away, having answered his own questions.
And the next shot, or the next sequence, I should say, is almost shot for shot the exact same as the first episode, as the pilot.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
Sam hears a noise downstairs. You know, the camera zooms in. He wakes up. He comes down the stairs with a baseball bat. You know, turns on the light. Dean attacks him from behind, but in this one, Sam's a wuss, so he doesn't know how to fight back.
He's like, thud. He's like,
Yes.
he's wrestled to the ground immediately.
Yeah.
You know, and even Dean says, I'm embarrassed for you.
Yeah.
I was like, that was so easy for me. I'm embarrassed for you.
Yeah.
When they're done wrestling, Sam's like, you know, what are you doing here? You know, and unfortunately you see that Dean says, oh, I was here for a beer, but the camera shows that he was actually there, like rifling through Mom's
Silverware.
silver,
Like good silver.
actual
Mom's
silver.
good silverware.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
Mom's silver. And he's like, oh my God, you're stealing Mom's silver. And Dean doesn't dispel Sam of that notion.
No.
Doesn't say, no, I'm not stealing the silver. He actually adds on, he's like, yeah, I need the silver to pay off a bookie.
Yeah.
So totally leans into the bad image that everybody has of him in this reality.
Yeah.
And he's like, yep. So I'm stealing Mom's silver to, you know, pay off a bookie.
Yep. Don't worry, Sam. I'm going to make everything right. Just tell Mom that I love her. I got to go.
And goes out to the car and gets in.
Yeah. Gets in and just kind of lingers for a while. And while he's lingering, then Sam hops into the seat. And he's just like, out.
Right, get out. And Sam's like, no, I'm going to help you. Whatever it is you're doing, I should be there for you.
Yeah.
And Dean's like, why? Because I'm your brother. We're still brothers.
We're still brothers at the end of the day.
Oh, there's...
Bitch. What? What are you calling me a bitch for?
And Dean's like, oh, you're supposed to say jerk.
Yeah, never mind.
Never mind. So I have to say, in that moment when Sam says, I'll help you because you're my brother, I was like, that's the first Sam thing that he said. Part of me was like, oh, poor Dean, you know, he's trying so hard to make it the way he's used to.
Yeah.
It's going to be harder to change things, even if, you know, he's like, I could change things. It's like, it's going to be harder than you think.
Yeah. These
get
little
to that
automatic
relationship.
little things that you guys have
Yes.
are no longer there.
Yes.
You have to make new ones or build them back up or whatever.
Yep.
Um,
So the as they drive away, because Dean's like, okay, off we go. We're gonna go do this thing. The plates on the car on the Impala are Kansas plates.
Yeah.
But they're not the plates
They're
that we're used to.
No, they're different Kansas plates.
They're totally different Kansas plates. I'm like, oh, okay. I just thought that was an interesting little. In this reality, it's not the Ohio plates. It's not the previous Kansas place. It's Kansas plates.
Well, it
but
would
they
be
don't-
Kansas because he has been living in Kansas, and it probably
Right.
wouldn't be those initial ones because I assume that they have been switched out many a time in his, you know, trying to hide from credit card fraudish type of cops and things like that. So Sam is like snooping in the back seat, you know, because he's like, okay, what else? Did you steal something else? Maybe, I don't know.
What are we doing?
Yeah. And he's like, you're not going to want to look at that. But he does.
And he's like,
it's
all
like
right.
a quart of blood.
And like and it's like glass jar is just a jar of blood.
Yeah.
You know, what is this? All right, I'm gonna tell you, you're still not gonna like it.
Yeah.
It's lamb's blood. And I need this silver knife dipped in lamb's blood to kill the djinn.
Yeah.
What?
Yes. A very not subtle truth is out there.
Yes.
Just spill the beans kind of thing. It's like, again, I don't have time to really get into it. I'm just, this is what I'm doing
gonna happen.
in this exact moment. I'm not even going to give you the backstory. This is just, I'm
That's what
dipping
it
a knife in blood to kill this genie.
to kill a djinn. Yeah. And Sam is perfect. He's like, stop the car.
Yep.
Stop the car. You can let me out. You know, stop the car. We're gonna talk about this. And he still has that there's more truth is out there. You know, Dean does the whole, you know, nightmares are real. The thing under the bed is real. Monsters are real. I wrote down irony here because Sam says And Sam's trying to be placating, like, it's okay. Shh, it's all right. And he's
Pulls
like,
out this phone. It's like,
Yep.
"Don't- we're just gonna.
we're just going to call someone to help
Yep.
you. So Dean takes his phone, pling, throws it out the window, which I've wanted to do a million times. But Sam says, you're having some sort of a psychotic breakdown. And Dean says, I wish.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, irony of this entire situation.
Okay.
I wish.
Oh, shit.
And
so hours later, one would assume, Sam has fallen asleep.
Still driving.
Yes.
Still driving.
Sam wakes up in Illinois.
Yeah. Punny, Dean says, not in Kansas anymore.
Oh, how many times I have heard that in my life.
Yeah.
Can't even tell you.
Well,
It's
that's
like one of those, if I had a quarter every time, I would
you'd be rich.
be retired by now.
You'd be right. But that is the Wizard of Oz reference number 1 in this episode.
Yep.
And of course, Dean does prank Sam in typical Dean fashion, like wakes him up with a flashlight.
Yeah.
He's like,
It's a mild prank. It is
a mild prank, but
yes.
it's still one of those, you can see a little bit of a smile on Dean's face while
Yeah.
he's doing it, like, And Sam, of course, is annoyed by being woken up with a flashlight, which is typical Sam. But it turns out they are back at that same factory where Dean first ran into the djinn.
Yes.
And Sam still not believing Dean.
Well, who
Still
would?
not believing Dean. Why
Right?
would you? Right? He's trying to convince Dean to leave. He's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
This can't be safe. Let's go.
Yeah.
We should go. But inside, once they're inside, they hear
Whimpering.
like whimpering.
Yeah, it's
and
like
crying.
mid Sam trying to like convince him to go or get help or
Not-
whatever it
yeah.
is. He hears something and he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And then they come across the room and they see those same corpses hanging from the ceiling that Dean had seen in his closet.
Yes. Yes.
And you can see like a little flash cut of like him remembering. It's like, "Oh yeah,
That's what I saw.
These are the closet corpses."
Right. I mean, they start to go towards the corpses, right?
Yes.
Don't they?
They see another girl there, a fresher girl, like someone who's not as decomposed as these two. And Dean, like right when he looks at her, is like, "This is the girl. This is the girl that I've been seeing. This is my vision." And then there's a noise. The djinn is coming.
The djinn is coming.
They hide.
Yep.
The djinn approaches the girl. She starts whimpering, crying, being like, "Where's my dad?
Where's
Where
my
is he? What's
dad?"
going on?"
Yeah.
And he does that thing, you said like a sleepy, like shh, go to sleep,
Caress.
with his
Yes.
blue flame light hand thing. And, she goes back into like a comatose state. He takes the blood. They're attached with
To their necks. They've got like needles in their necks that are attached to an IV bag.
Yeah.
And
he takes it out of her neck and like squirts a little bit of the blood down his throat.
drinks it. And it's like almost sexual. It's like almost sexual, the pleasure he derives from drinking her blood.
Right.
And Sam can't help himself. He's like, ugh. Then he makes this noise and the djinn hears him and goes searching for Sam and Dean. But luckily, he doesn't find them.
No, he just kind of disappears. The djinn
Disappears. That's terrible.
But it's very twisted. And this was how they supernatural spun.
Twisted, yeah.
The
Did
djinn.
the supernatural.
Right.
Okay.
It's
I
like,
thought it was so...
what if we horror it where we like he drinks their blood?
He drinks their blood directly out of her neck. What was another thing that was gross or just disturbing about this is while the girl is just like the other corpses, she's being suspended by her hands, by her wrists, her feet, her toes can just barely touch the ground. So she can't even like maneuver to get away. Like she can't squirm to get away from him. So she's clearly slightly conscious of this thing coming at her before he does the whole hand over the, sleep, my dear, whatever.
Yeah.
But she tries to get away from him, but she can't because just the tips of her toes touch the ground.
Yeah.
So anytime that she is conscious and not in this dream world, she still can't get away from him.
Right.
And
it's going to probably take all of her strength just to like Put the
keep
tippy
her
tippy toes
tippy
on
toes
her
on the ground.
on
Yeah,
the
and I was
ground.
like, oh,
Yeah, so the djinn disappears, and then Dean and Sam approach this girl again.
yeah.
And this is kind of when it's like starting to click. The pieces are
For
coming
Dean.
together for Dean.
Yep.
Because he's like, I've been seeing this girl, I've seen this, and he kind of looks up, he sees a light, like on the ceiling, and he
Oh,
kind
like
of
a
see
light
like this,
bulb. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and he kind of like has this flash cut almost, where it's in reality and then in this reality.
Dream world, yeah.
What if I'm just getting glimpses of actual reality, and all of this is just in my head?
Because I've seen her and I've seen this light bulb. It's like,
Yeah.
why am I seeing this?
And I've seen this corpse.
He's like, maybe I'm also there.
Yeah.
Maybe
and he's
this
just
is
feeding
happening
off
to
of me too.
Yep. Yeah, and he says, maybe the djinn doesn't grant your wishes. Maybe he just makes you think he's granted your wishes, which I think is an amazing leap. But given all the clues that he's been shown, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Sam is still trying to get Dean to leave. Can't blame him. Can't blame Sam for this.
No, just like, yeah. Whoa. This is
corpses,
way beyond my
yes.
tattooed guys, blue things. I don't blood.
Let's just go, especially given that this Sam doesn't know supernatural.
No. And now Dean is like, okay, I don't think that you're real. Don't touch me. No,
this can't be real.
The veil has been lifted.
Yeah. And pulls out his knife, the silver knife that he stole from Mom, and he's like,
right,
you can't die in your dreams.
Right. It's like old wives' tale. Like once if you're right before you're about to die in a dream, you wake up.
Yep, you can't die in your dreams. And Sam's like, whoa.
Yeah. Drastic measure here. Let's not rethink this. I'm real. See, I'm touching you. I am real. You're about to kill yourself. This is not. Stop.
Are you sure that you can't die in your dreams? And Dean says
90% sure.
90% sure. And just as he goes to he is going to kill himself, he's about to do it, then suddenly out appears Mom, Carmen, Jesse. They all show up in this factory.
Yes, like Sam yells stop, and then his whole demeanor changes. And he's not the scared Sam who doesn't know what's going on anymore. He is all-knowing Sam. Like, he's in on this joke now. Yeah. It's just like, why did you have to keep digging? This was the perfect world, right?
You were happy. Yeah, this was
we're alive,
Why? I love that. He's like, why did you have to keep digging? Why did you have to keep picking?
Yeah.
And he says, it's like everybody gets their chance to say to Dean, why he should still just let go and decide to stay in this happy reality. And it's like everybody says the right things, but it's not quite right. It's like Mom wouldn't really say those things. And there's just something that's, for me, that was slightly off. I mean, they all just are basically saying, you were happy here. Why fight it?
Right. And even Mom is just like, he says, I'm going to be dead in a couple days. And Mom is like, but it's not going to feel like that here. It's going to feel like a lifetime. You're going to, live a lifetime here.
Yeah. Yeah. And you will be happy. I'll be happy. We will all be happy. It's all about happy, and you've experienced it. You know what it's going to be like. So why not just let it keep, let's just all be happy. And it seems like it would be convincing. And it seems like Dean is almost convinced that, because it would be easy. It would definitely be easier.
Yeah. Mom would be alive. Sam would have Jess. He would have Carmen. Yep. He would have just a regular schmegular life.
Yep.
And he doesn't have to be the
hero,
the guy who saves everybody.
Yep. And sacrifice everything. And even Sam buttons this all by saying, why is it our job to save everyone? Yeah. Haven't you done enough?
Yeah.
That to me is like the anti-Sam, which is what makes Dean in this next moment say, basically like, I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
And he ends up taking the silver knife and stabs himself. He just is like, not good enough, stabs himself. And Sam is like, no, Dean, no, Dean, no. And in the next moment, it cuts to Dean again to Sam yelling, Dean, no, Dean, no.
But it's real.
It's real. And we see Dean wake up.
Yeah.
So
this is a clever little camera trick here. I really liked what they did there.
Yeah.
You know, with like fake Sam and then real Sam, like kind of blending into one from the other. And Sam now is like really panicked. Happy panic? I don't know. That like he sees Dean like stirring and like waking up, even though Dean is like one of those people. Now we see Dean. He's one of the corpses.
Exactly. We see Dean. Like, yes, he's tied up. He's like he's clearly been physically drained. He does not look good.
No, he's barely alive, but he is still alive. Yeah. And Sam moves immediately to cut him down. And here's the second, right? The Annie M. Doesn't he say like, oh, Annie M?
Annie M. Yes, exactly. So second Wizard of Oz reference. Sam pulls the IV out of Dean's neck, and I was like, that was amazing. It was disgusting, but it was so well done. And goes to cut Dean down from his ropes, but as he's doing it, that Jinn comes up behind him, and Dean sees
like out of the shadows.
Out comes the guy with the blue eyes, exactly. And Dean's like, Sam, but the Jinn still is able to attack Sam.
Yes, they tussle for a while. Dean is not quite fully cut down. Like there's just like those couple of little threads ish left that Sam couldn't get to with the knife. The Jinn like knocks the knife loose out of his hand. We see Dean like trying to,
get himself down,
muster all of his strength to get himself down, and cut to the Jinn attacking Sam, like
doing the blue hand.
Yes. Like, approaching. So Sam's trying to fight the hand off, and it's like that whole like standstill moment where it just keeps getting closer and closer before Dean stabs him in the back.
With his hunter's knife.
Yes.
That's been dipped in lamb's blood.
Yes. And the blue light leaves his eyes. And the Jinn is dead.
I can't read my notes. Dean goes, which is awesome. So now Dean's next thought is to the girl. He's not thinking about himself and, what he's lost. He goes to the girl in white, who is still, hanging.
Tied up.
And he must think she's dead. And because he goes up to her and he goes to like take her pulse or whatever. And as he's doing that, like a single tear, like gently falls from her eye. Oh, and I was like, oh God. He's like, oh my God, she's alive.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Dean saves her at last. Yes.
Yeah.
Sam cuts her down and off they go.
And so now they're back at the hotel. Now you see the genie-dom of this motel room. So not only do you see the like genie glasses as the room dividers, the wallpaper of this hotel room. Did you notice it? It literally
I didn't
was
notice the motel room at all.
Go back and look. The walls are literally painted in almost like very Van Gogh-esque swirls, kind of like in the Scream. It's, I mean, it's not quite as whirly, but it's definitely oranges, reds, and yellows that are in this,
I think the Scream was Edward Munch, but anyway.
Oh, really? I thought it was a Van Gogh. The Scream, really? I thought it was like Starry Night, the Scream.
Starry Night is Van Gogh, but the Scream painting is by Edvard Munch.
Oh, okay.
This guy, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You see how
it's the same. So it's kind of the same style, though. So
okay.
You are not at fault for mixing up the two.
Okay, so something like that. When you go back and look, you'll be like, "Oh, that's what she meant."
Yes.
So instead of blues and yellows, it's oranges and reds and stuff. But it's clearly meant to be as if inside a genie's bottle.
I did not notice the motel at all because I was looking at Sam's on the phone with somebody with the hospital, checking on the girl, and Dean is looking through like a magazine or something, and he sees Carmen
in a beer ad. Right, which is the exact same photo that he saw in their apartment.
Yeah,
minus the beer bottle.
Right.
Which is funny because when I first saw the picture in the beginning of Carmen, I was like, that's a terrible Photoshop, but I think they meant it to be.
I have to say all of the Photoshop was really terrible.
It was really, but that particular photo was really
Yeah,
bad.
it was.
That was really, really
But
bad.
all of them, it was like all the family members had like different skin tone shades going on. Like John was really gray and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone had like mom was always like a really small head compared to everybody else in the photo.
And I know that they spent a lot of time on it because the Crypt Keep mentioned it. He's just like, man, there was so much work done on these photos. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Photoshop wasn't as good
not
then,
so,
but I don't
yes,
know.
exactly. Exactly. But the photo of Carmen was especially like, and I think they did that specifically to be like,
Oh, yeah.
huh. Now we
Yeah.
see why he thought,
Yeah.
you know, why she was there in his dream, in his wish.
Right. So the girl at the hospital is going to be okay. She's going to pull through. So,
Yes.
yay, they did actually save her.
Yeah.
And
And
now they kind of chat, and you can tell that Dean has given a lot of the details of his trip,
experience,
his acid trip, to Sam. Because Sam is like, wow, we didn't get along. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And Dean's like, yeah, and you were kind of a wuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is exactly what I thought, but
Yes. But, you know, Sam's like, I wonder why that, you know, I thought it was supposed to be a perfect fantasy. And Dean says, no, I was just granted a wish, and my wish was that Mom was alive. And because Mom lived, you know, we never got into the hunting game, so we never, you know,
never had these experience.
Life moved on exactly how it would have if that moment, it's like the butterfly effect, right? You know.
Yes, a butterfly beats its wings, and somewhere and there's a tsunami. Yeah.
Yeah.
My one question, because Dean says, you know, I just wish that Mom was alive. My question is, when did Dean make that wish? That
I don't think he ever like said it out loud. Like, I wish this. But I think it was like the genie, like
the djinn knew.
Yeah, like kind of found it in him, you know, just maybe read his mind or something like that. Maybe it's part of the djinn's power.
Okay, because that was my first question. I was like, because he says, I wish Mom was alive. I was like, when did he say this? When did he make this wish? But if it was just the djinn knew it when he attacked him, you know, I guess that's one of the powers the djinn has, is to know what your wish is.
Right.
So you don't actually actively seek out the djinn. The djinn finds you.
That was at least the take that I took. Like, I kind of just like took that in stride, you know, when he said, I wish that Mom was alive, because I never physically heard him say it. It was like, oh, it just must have been in his head. Or maybe he didn't realize like that was what his wish was until like he started living in that reality for a little bit, for a few days. And he was just like, oh, okay, I think.
Because he didn't wish for his dad. Yeah, he didn't wish the dad was alive.
No.
You know? He wished, so, you know, he must have, like I said, you know, he worshipped his dad, but he truly missed his mom growing up.
Yeah.
You know, as evidenced by the sandwich.
Right.
And, you know, Sam says, I'm glad you had the strength to dig yourself out.
Not a lot of people would.
He's like, I would think that most people would have stayed where it was, you know, safe and happy.
Yeah. And Dean does say, I wanted to.
He's like, I wanted to stay. We've lost so much because of this. But Sam, being Sam in this reality, says, people are alive because of you.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It's worth it. And I wrote down, I said, so much truth from this Sam. You know, so much truth for Dean. You know, Sam says the things that are true about Dean in this reality, which is he recognizes the sacrifice and he's like, and it's worth it. Whereas the other Sam said, it's not worth it. You know, why do you have to be the one to do it? Maybe that's why I had so much anger at that Sam. Because he wasn't supporting Dean.
Yeah.
Or recognizing Dean's struggles and sacrifices. So I wrote, so much truth. It's worth it. Sacrifices and heroes. And that's what I wrote down. Sacrifices and heroes. And that's how I ended my notes for that, for this episode.
I ended my notes because there is a last camera look at Dean's face where he doesn't say anything. But to me, the look kind of was like, is it though? Is it worth it?
Yeah. it's not a happy ending. This is not a happy
No.
ending by any
No,
means.
no, 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 no.
Because again, to Jensen's, talent, you see the struggle.
Yeah.
He made the choices and it's not the right one for him, but he got his brother back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like not the choice that he really, really wanted.
Yeah. He really wanted to just be happy and have a life.
Yeah. Right.
But I think the struggle, the hero in him recognized that it wasn't about him. It was about the 108
Right.
people on the plane. It was about the little girl that Sam pulled from the pool, about the little, all the rescues that weren't noticed, that weren't, brought up in, because they save somebody every week.
It's the same thing in him when on a much smaller scale and a sillier scale, when he's greeted with two hot half-naked chicks in lingerie that the trickster gifts him, gift wraps up for him, essentially.
Literally, yes.
There you go. That he says, no, I can't.
No,
I have to
not
save the
this
world.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a happy ending, but it's the ending that we as the audience needed because we need to know that our heroes are going to go on being heroes.
Right. Yeah.
Even knowing what their sacrifice is and how much it hurts them, I still need them to be the heroes. I still need Sam to be Dean's brother.
Yeah.
In every season, when there's any discord between the brothers, I hate it. Yeah. And I have to watch the next episode to see if they're going to resolve their tension. That's the recipe for this.
Yeah.
Is as a viewer, you need the heroes to get along. You want them to be happy. You want them to have each other as their backups. And anytime the writers write it so that they're at each other as adversaries, if the brothers are adversaries, or if the brothers aren't a team, that struggle and that antagonism, it's impetus to make you keep watching because you have to get to the resolve.
Right. Because it gets boring when they're just like on the same team all the time. You have to have tension in order to resolve the tension. Right. And, anyway.
Right. But I need the resolve,
Right.
But that it keeps me watching. So bravo to the writers. And, again, bravo to Kripke in this episode because I rode that roller coaster with Dean. Bravo. I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
And aesthetically, I enjoyed it as well. I loved that the Jinn had that.
Yes, I loved that the Jinn's reality. Like, to me, it looked like there was almost like a haziness to it. Like, all the edges of everything were softened, like of the people and everything. And there was just like a slight glow. Even in the warehouse. Yeah, even the warehouse at the end when they're both like in Illinois and Dean is dragging, a reluctant Sam through. Even though it is dingier than the house in Kansas, it's still a little bit brighter and a little bit, it kind of had like this weird haze over it, I felt like. I don't know if that's true or if that was just me telling myself that it did. But then you can even see the moment when Dean stabs himself and it goes from Jinn Sam to real Sam, how much drearier it becomes. It's like back to like
it's reality,
drab reality.
Yeah, it's our supernatural reality of rain and cold, drips,
dark,
deep. Yes, exactly. But it's also familiar.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we only have 2 episodes left.
What? Oh my gosh! No, that's just.
It's basically the finale because it's All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1 and then Part 2. And those are the last 2 episodes.
God. This season just flew by.
It did. Even when we didn't see each other for 84 years, it's still just like, oh, wait, it's over already.
Wow. I'm talking about like hitting your stride, Supernatural just like hit their stride.
Yes.
They hooked us. I was kind of hooked anyway. But I feel like they just like found it. It's like writing, directing, cinematography, everything is just like click, 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 click. And the storytelling is just, I am so along for the ride on this.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, everyone, for joining in this week. Please make sure to follow, subscribe, and rate our podcast on anywhere you can rate podcasts. Please also follow us, find us on social. We're at Salt and Burn This Pod on Instagram and Facebook, and at Salt and Burn This on Twitter.
The dogs have had enough.
I had like a little paw. Like, come on.
They're like, we've been really quiet. It's time for us to.
Yeah, we want to play.
Aw.
We want to bark. Okay, fine.
Okay. Oh, it's such good doggies.
Thank you, everyone. We will see you next week for the part 1 of season 2 finale.
Yes.
All hell breaks loose.
Oh my
Thanks
gosh.
all. Bye.
Bye.